If you are building applications using large language models, it's highly likely that you have heard about AI agents. Now, what are they? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. This is an extremely beginner friendly video, so we'll just talk about how AI agents came into being and what they are and what other things they can be used for. We'll take two perspectives and two articles, one from a backers.ai, great article, no affiliations. Second from AWS, just to get a more technical perspective. And then in the subsequent videos, I'm going to do more deep dive. All right, this is Akash Verma. Welcome to Cafe.io. Let's get started. So when large language models and ChatGPT came into existence, I think existence is an interesting word there. The normal mode of interaction was that you have a chat-based interface, like a browser window, which is essentially this page, which is Chat GPT's interaction page, and you would just go there and say how are you or whatever you want to talk about, right? And it will give you interactive questions and answers. And what then evolved after this is the ability to upload data, or maybe just add some information here. I'm not going to add a document, but the idea is that you can add and augment your own information, like your knowledge bases, which could be your enterprise data and your context essentially. And that's called RAG architecture. If you're not familiar with it, I've done videos about it. Go and look them up. I'll link them in the description. So from direct interfaces, which is chat-based interfaces, where the limitation was that the model wasn't aware of your data, to RAG-based architectures, which are more enterprise on software products, where you're using your organizational context and bringing in the power of large language models in a central place, giving the power to the user to ask questions, leveraging the data. Now, a gradual succession or progression of this kind of design and architecture is something what we are calling as an agent-based setup. Now, AI agents can be defined in a very simple way as to they are autonomous reasoning engines, and there's no fixed description as such, but you can imagine them as a good mixture and an upgraded version of LLM and RAG architecture and reasoning engine working together. So essentially what they bring to the table is, given a problem and a question, they can decompose the problem into steps and also execute it. And that's very powerful. It's very different from workflows. Workflows are pre-programmed either in the form of DAGs, which is directory cyclic graphs, or leveraging tools like schedules, API calls, etc. So workflows are things or processes stitched together by technology. AI agents, though, appear very similar, but they are very different. They are strong reasoning engines. How strong of reasoning ability they have is a conversation for later, but they can be really powerful. And let's try and take an example. So let's imagine that I want to predict, or I want to understand the stock prices or the movements happening within this week, and I want it to give me some sort of an analysis. So I'm just going to go and say that, hey, give me the analysis for Google or Reliance for this week. And an understanding is that, if usually there's a model behind, you can get an answer. But what an agent will have to do is take the problem, decompose it into steps. The first step would be, hey, what do I need for getting the summary or getting market information? I need the price data. Let me figure out the right API for it. And these are tools that can be given to the agent as such. And we'll again talk about in deeper dive video. So it needs to make an API call. It needs to get the data, store it in some place. It needs to have a memory of all of these steps. Then it needs to understand that we are talking of predictions. All right, it's going to do prediction modeling, which is some sort of an ML model. Maybe it needs sentiment data. So it's going to go and figure out what sort of sentiment data access it has. So all of that figuring out reasoning capabilities is done by the agent. So it sounds really interesting, and it is. It's very, very powerful. Different frameworks call it differently. Like it's also autonomous agents, AI agents, whatever is the right term that you want to call it. Now here's a diagram that summarizes the concept, and let's take a look at it. So when a user clicks, it's essentially called a prompt or an input, and then there's an AI agent, and it has the ability to understand prompt, generate, list plus execute, and it can connect two data sources, which is, let's say, first step, which is what I was talking. And that's essentially the RAG part of it in some sense. It can execute code, which is point number 2. And there's a task. Each step will have a task output, like each task will have an output, right? Step 3 could be some sort of an ML modeling, which is what I was describing. And step 4, or, orchestrating all of this, could be talking to LLM. So this is what it is able to do. And all of these other areas, like the ability to execute APIs, the ability to get data, would be tools. So it needs some sort of an LLM to work with. It needs some tools to work with it. Like, let's say something has to be searched on the internet. So Google search over an API would be a tool. So that's what an AI agent does. Now let's hop over to what AWS has to say about it. Now, the description, or rather the definition, is very, very straightforward and mouthful. An AI agent is a software program that can interact with the environment, collect data, and use the data to perform self-determined tasks to meet predetermined goals. Now, there's a difference between workflow and agent, which is very, very lucid in this line. Self-determined tasks, which is the agent is determining those tasks, and predetermined goals, the goals are kind of predetermined. So an agent might have some sort of a specific purpose around it, and you could think of it as a matrix agent for all I think that could be. So you could have an agent which is looking up internal documents. You could have an agent which is responding to customer queries. You could have an agent that's collecting data, and all of these agents can actually talk amongst themselves, which is kind of a scary idea, but yeah, that's kind of true. What can it do? A lot of different things. I think we're just beginning to tap in the potential of this. So AWS has a service called Q, and leveraging that, and Bedrock also, which is the LLM part of it. Leveraging all of that, you can really, really design great workflows / interactions that you can think, and these can be actually used and will be used to replace humans. I have no qualms in saying that, but I don't mean it in a negative way. I think as people would find way to automate their tasks, there will be people needed who would actually write those automations. So again, it's technology doesn't take away the job, it actually builds more jobs that are required. I hold to that point of view, maybe you do not. So what are the benefits? Like productivity in cost, decision making is better, customer experience is better. What are the different components? It's essentially, there's an agent program, there's an architecture, which is the RAG part of it, the LLM part of it. So there's a nice little diagram that AWS has. So the same stuff, 1 2 3 4 5, which is a question comes, it goes into a feature store. Like, let's say the question could be that give me a recommendation, or give me suggestions for the movie that I'm interested in watching. So it's gonna go to feature store, user profile, basis the category preference. It's gonna look at the movie metadata store, which is what sort of movies I have. It's gonna go to the language model, give it a prompt, say, hey, this was user preference based on some model data and feature data. This is what the metadata tells us. What do you think should happen? And the LLM will give some sort of an answer, formats it, wraps it into a nice email, triggers an email program, and et voila. Other challenges, obviously, it's technically complex. It's also very surprising, and sometimes you'll be like, wow, can it do this? And so that happens. So you can do, it can handle a lot of technical complexity, but at the same time, it is very technical complex as well. There will be data privacy concerns. Automated agents will have no notion of ethics, and they'll just acquire data, move it around, transform the way they need it without gaining into a lot of understanding of privacy requirements, etc. So you might have to design it that way. And interestingly, there's an agent for it. An organization might just build a agent which is helping monitor the data privacy concerns within the data landscape. It's very, very possible. You can just hook it to all your data governance needs, and it's going to keep sending you a report every single day. There can be ethical challenges, unfair utilization, biases creeping in, inaccurate results. Sometimes LLMs do hallucinate very much like people, so there can be just stupid answers coming out, and computational resources are also some sort of a limitation. But again, if you think about most of these limitations minus the privacy and ethical challenges, I think all of them can be easily overcome. The compute resources is the least challenging in my view. I think infrastructure is going to be always getting cheaper and cheaper, and organizations will put better silicons out there. What are different types of AI agents? Tons of different kind of agents. Simple reflex agent, which is predefined rules and output, model based agent, goal based agents, utility based agents, learning agents, hierarchical agents, etc., etc. So AWS has a bunch of services that can help you achieve this. And Bedrock is there, Q is there, SageMaker is there, Trinium is there. I don't think this document was written when Q was published, which is why they don't have it here. I'll probably want to end the video by talking a few seconds about Q. So Q is kind of a generative AI powered chatbot assistance for accelerating development and a lot of business related options. So Q can do a lot of different things. It can do answer questions, summarization, customer interaction, completion of tasks based on data, etc., etc. There's a Q developer which can work like a coding assistant. There's integration with QuickSight where it can give you something which is called as generative AI. Connect can help you build customer service agents on top of your AWS knowledge base, and supply chain becomes doing a lot of inventory management, demand planning, and stuff like that. Again, all of these exercises can be automated by agents. It's crazy the way potential could be, and you would see a bunch of AI agents coming our way very soon in the future. So stay tuned for more videos like this. If this was informational for you, hit the like button, subscribe, share these videos because I desperately need sharing at this stage. And thank you for listening. Maybe not that desperately. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.